it's funny. I had teachers who were just like, you do more of your freelance, which is great, but like you need to do your schoolwork too. Like I had to land.
Thank you for being a pal.
What's up, pals? Welcome back to Pen Tool Pals, a friendly graphic design podcast between two graphic designers. My name is Canvas Cam with Canvas Design Company.
And I'm Cole from Cole Design. Thanks so much for joining us on another episode of Pen Tool Pals. We've got an epic guest today, a friend of mine from a long time, just chatting through the interwebs and once in person, DJ Javier.
How'd you get him, bud?
Kind of a funny story. I'm sure that me and DJ will probably chat about it, but just a random encounter. We've kept in touch. Met each other back up at Agenda not too long, or it was a long time ago, at least 5, 6, 7 years ago. We reconnected at Agenda a few years back, and we've just kept in touch through social media since then. And it's just been epic, kind of like having, just like we do, Cam, like having one of those social friendships on Instagram and keeping in touch and seeing the progression of what he's been up to and, you know, keeping in touch. So it seemed only right to have him on the podcast and see what he's been up to.
Hell yeah, dude. That's fun. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to him. It's going to be a good time. How was your trip, though? You went to Hawaii.
It was a good trip, yeah. Oh, man, I wish I was there longer. I could seriously live there. It was an amazing trip. I went out there to meet with one of my clients for HIC, Hawaiian Island Creations. So I was able to check up on inventory, see some new inspiration for designs. You know, Hawaii's an interesting one where they sell the most amount of location-based product, like tourist shirts in the world.
Okay.
So like a shirt that says Hawaii on it, like is the most sold location or destination t-shirt in the world.
Believe it.
So it's just been a cool thing, and like they have a total different culture out there and what imagery sells. So it's really specific on making sure that is dialed when I, you know, am making designs. So got a bunch more inspiration, took a bunch of photos, had some good times, and yeah, hopefully I'll head back out there sometime soon if things don't shut down again.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, man. I'm glad you had a good trip and good meetings and all that stuff.
How's everything with you, man?
Good, man. Just I have come down with the ick, but I've been still, yep. Your boy right now has the coronavirus, and I'm staying inside.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm still working. I did take a few days off over the weekend, which I typically even work on the weekends when I don't have anything going on. But I stayed in bed. I lost 2 days worth of work that I'm currently catching up on. But it's fine. You know, it happens, and I'm going to stay inside and self-isolate and all that stuff. I know for a fact, you know how people who didn't have very many symptoms of the coronavirus are like, I definitely probably had it at one point. Well, no, I didn't have it at one point because I know how it feels now. But I can't smell anything. I can barely taste anything, and that's probably just the salts firing off on my taste buds that have no taste. But whatever. But yeah, no, it's playing catch up on some work right now, and everything's going on schedule, so it's not too hectic over here.
Well, I guess that's one of the perks of Pen Tool Pals is that we can still have the show go on and do this in a safe way.
Now, hey,
this is kind of like a byproduct of coronavirus, anyways. Yeah. But hope you get better soon, man. Get that
go get a test. You're gonna get it from me through this lens.
Just don't touch your camera screen.
Yeah.
All right, you can just cut it there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's get DJ into the chat. What's up, dude?
Whoa, look at that. The backdrop.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
Wait, it's just Zoom, right?
It's just Zoom. We can make you a background. No, dude, your background's way better than
DJ has like a super sweet studio in Santa Barbara.
nice.
Yeah,
We give like a little tilt back and forth.
this whole thing is actually a background. I'm actually in the bathroom right now.
Oh, tight.
This is
Number 1 and number 2.
there's I don't know. I'm working on a bunch of
Oh,
that's
sick.
like
Yeah,
a
I've seen
giant
that.
wave cutout thing that you can like step into. And then there's like more stuff. There's like a surfboard rack behind the waves, but
Damn.
it's like
It's
my
so
little
rad.
studio, and it's like a block from the beach. Like if I step out onto the street and look left, like I'm basically in like almost like the arts district of Santa Barbara, if that makes sense.
Badass, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Cam, by the way. We
Super
haven't
dope.
actually officially met. But
And Cam, me and DJ, I mean, I followed DJ's work for like probably the longest I followed anybody's work.
that's
'Cause
crazy.
we met once, like, I don't know how long ago it was, DJ, probably like at least 10 years ago, right?
It was, I remember the first time I met you, I didn't know it was you. I pulled up to my local break with my homie to go surf.
Yeah.
And you came by on a beach cruiser and you just gave me a sticker. And then you rode off, and I'm like, "What the hell? Who is this?" And like, but
That's right.
And
Didn't I give you a spruce tea too, or no?
well, so that it's funny because then, like, I think maybe like a year later, I was interning at Iron and Resin, and I was at Agenda, and I
Nice.
was walking the whole floor, like
That's
my boss
right.
was like, "Go cruise, meet people," and I walked by the booth, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I'm like, one of you guys gave me a sticker. Like, I know this logo. I literally have this sticker like on my desk. And then you like stepped out of like the crowd of your homies. And I was like, wait, we met like a year ago or something. And then that's when you like hooked it up with stuff. But it was like the most, like our friendship is the most random. Like, what are the odds that, like,
super random.
That's sick.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I had followed DJ's work, and like he was one of the first people that I was ever like introduced to real life / social media that I was seeing doing like something similar, like in graphic design or something. And I was just always obsessed with DJ's work and seeing what was even crazier, like his progression of what he's doing all the way from like then working like for Iron and Resin to now doing a little bit more of like your own Canto buy on surf stuff, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
It's crazy how like far spread Iron and Resin is, because like I know of Iron and Resin all the way in Bakersfield, and I actually have had I think a buddy or two work in the shop as like in their retail department or something like that. But
Totally.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that was like almost like the kind of like initial like boot camp for me, where they were like, my boss then, when I was an intern, was just like, oh, here are all like the tips and tricks. And then that was like how I actually learned and formed like my style of how I do things.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it totally, because they were like at that time they were like very graphic heavy, like graphic tees. That was like that was like a big part of like everything they did.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like I'm literally just making stuff every single day, every time we'd go in. But yeah, that was like for sure that was like a really good launch point for me creatively.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you still doing stuff for Iron and Resin, or is that because I know you're at CV's now, right?
Yeah. So my schedule is pretty funny. I haven't worked with Iron and Resin in like a really long time. They like did some restructuring, and so they're kind of like more of like a more premium like cut and sew brand, I would say, like less graphic. But yeah, so it's funny. My schedule is 24 hours a week. I'm art director at CV's, and so I do like marketing stuff. I'll do like random stuff for like our retail stores. I'm working on like our soft goods program, so I'm like constantly like trying to like put our whole soft goods like tees and crew necks and hoodies and hats and stuff together, down to like, oh, we're doing, I don't know, some like branding stuff, or we need some like stuff for like our shoes, or we have a collaboration, how are we going to launch it out? So that's like I oversee all of that. And then the other half of my week is like where I squeeze in the time to like do like the painting stuff, or do other freelance work, artist collaborations. So yeah, it's a sweet deal because like I love working with CDs, and then it also feeds into my other work. Yeah, it just keeps me excited and going.
Very cool, dude.
You just seem super busy. I mean, and also I remember seeing you start kind of these characters in like your sketchbooks, like way, I don't know how many years ago that was, and then I've seen that like style develop now to where you're. I don't know if you would consider yourself like a gallery artist or just like a regular, you're like typical. I don't know what the correct term for it is, but you're your own artist, right?
Yeah, totally.
Is,
yeah, it's funny. Like I said, like you've kind of like being friends with you, and you saw like literally at the very beginning of like graphics, and I'm like, oh, I hope no one ever sees this. Like you saw it because like we had followed each other since back in the day. And, like, you know, now where it's like, oh, I've kind of developed that style more and all that.
Hell yeah.
But yeah.
My internet was a little awful there, so but I got the gist of what you were saying.
Yeah.
But, do you want to tell us more about like how you started like Bion Surf Club or Canto and what that's all about?
Yeah, totally. So like yeah, all the stuff that I'm doing now, like Bion Surf Club, it honestly is really just like a moniker for like me. Like it's really just me. And I think you guys can attest to like being, you know, freelance graphic designers that you're like, oh, let me talk to my project manager, and you're like, I'm my own project manager.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, so like that's what it is. There's one guy that I'll kind of bring on. I brought him on like when I did this like big mural project here in town, and so he was like, he kind of came in and like was like a part of like my team essentially, which is awesome. And it's also like this physical space that like I'm in right now. So yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I think as a creative, like you always want to brand something, and even it's like yourself, like you want to just like, brand it, because like when you grow, then like it grows with you, kind of thing. And so,
Totally.
And obviously, like the surf club is just a reference to like I love surfing, and then Bayan is like this term. It comes from this term Bayanihan, which in Tagalog, which is one of the dialects of Filipino people. It's this idea that like when someone, like not many people like maybe do it now, but like say someone's like moving from one village to the next, like the whole like village would like put bamboo rods across their like hut, and they'd pick it up together and walk it together. And so and then the family whose house was moved, they would then like cook a meal and like kind of celebrate together. And so yeah, I just like, I don't know, I was like, if I'm gonna like brand myself, I want it to like mean something, you know. And so I think that's like a big part of like a lot of the things I do, whether it's, you know, maybe I'll do some work for free for someone, or I'll like donate art to something, or I'll donate funds to something from something I've done. It's like I always try to like, as much as I can, help other people out, you know. Yeah, because like there's so many people who've done that for me along the way, and sadly so many people who kind of like were like, oh, whatever, you're just some kid, I'm not like, I don't, you know. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that too, of like, you know, older designers who've like kind of pulled you up, and some who've just like stepped over you, you know. And I think for me, it's like I always, with my work, want to be supportive, whether it's like financially, or if someone asks me a question of like, how did you do this? I'm like, I did it exactly like this. Like you can do it. You should learn how to do it even better than me, you know? And so that's kind of like my mentality of naming it that. And then, yeah, all my other projects are just, I don't know, like I think working with like always having clients, I think I'm always like, I want to just do my own thing sometimes. And so that's kind of, you know, where that comes from, which I'm sure for you guys of like, I want to make my own print. I want to make my own tee. I don't want anyone to tell me how to do it or any feedback. It's like, this is mine. So
I just did some graphics for myself for the first time in a long time. And I found myself, there's a lot of freedom in it, but also I was going like, oh, am I doing this right? Like it's so hard to design for yourself, especially when you haven't designed anything for yourself in so long, and you've gotten so used to designing for clients that you want that kind of affirmation from them, from somebody. But since you're doing it for yourself, it's just you. But well, I like your mentality about, you know, like lifting up others instead of stepping over them. And you know, we've talked about it on this podcast enough to where it's like, you know, that mentality is going to make you successful, opposed to if you're an asshole, you're you're not gonna do anything. And if you do have a big career as a designer and you're an asshole, well, I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to deal with that asshole up there.
Really, yeah.
You've always been super good with like revolving your projects around giving back to communities or giving back to the less fortunate and some of the larger mission projects like that's going on, or social missions that are happening like within the world, which has always been super cool to see you give back and have like meaning behind each of your projects. Cam, you're doing a little party room.
Yeah, my green screen just went. Yeah, my screen just went. Bleh.
You have like an actual green screen.
Yeah, I have an actual green screen. My camera, I got this webcam, and it wasn't like I could just throw a virtual green screen on like Cole does. Cole has nothing behind him. When I got my webcam, it kept on reading everything behind me, so I had to get an actual green screen and then figure it out from there. So
I love that.
I actually want to show what's behind me because this is actually all of DJ's work.
Oh no shit! Nice.
You know what's funny? I don't even think I have any. Like, I'm so bad at keeping track of things I make that I'm like, I've now been like, okay, I need to keep at least one. But like some of those are like I don't have that brick one, which is awesome. It's like one of my favorites.
Yeah, this one's so sick.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I have more of them around my, I would say, office / room, but one is like right above, and I don't know if this is weird, it's right above my toilet. And so I literally have stared at that more than I've ever stared at any artwork in my entire life. It's like the best, it's the most the nicest frame I own too. I like it's like for myself, right? So that way every day I wake up, I brush my teeth, and I'm going to the bathroom, but I'm literally looking at your artwork for at least like 10 minutes to 15 minutes a day.
So what we've learned today is that Cole shits a lot.
I can't see it if I'm shitting. I can't. It's only if I'm going number one.
Just see sit down and do one of these.
He's like, I love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And it's funny because like above toilets, normally it's such a great place to frame something. Mm-hmm. So I'm honored that like you put something like, because I mean, it's like it's so symmetrical. Boom, put a print right there.
Yes, exactly. I don't want you to think that I didn't like it because I put it over toilet. It's because I liked it so much that I put it over the toilet.
The bathroom is supposed to be the most comfortable room in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
But two of them were actually for some sort of social issue that you basically were asking for. Like you had a base price for the project, and then you said if you want to do anything over this price, then that amount will go towards the social cause, right?
Totally. Yeah. I think one was for like there was like a volcano that had like partially erupted in the Philippines and like did some crazy damage. And so that went to that. And then I think maybe the other one was probably like I was raising money for like BLM Santa Barbara. And it was like a circular one. So it's probably one of those.
One. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the other one is the one that's over the toilet, which is the two characters riding over the bowl.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's awesome.
Super cool.
Nice. Yeah.
But you recently did a huge mural. Was it for Amazon?
Yeah. So that was for Amazon here in town. They have an office like maybe like 10 minutes from me. And so that was like it was probably like each wall was 10 feet tall, 36 feet wide, and there was 3 of them in like a U formation.
It looked enormous.
And that one was probably, that was for sure like the most like physically like taxing. That was like 8.5 days, and I had someone assisting. And it's funny because like they haven't really gone back, so like nobody besides their like security team and like I don't know, they're like facilities manager in the mural. And so I like spent like almost 9 days painting this thing. And only like a handful of people have seen it. But it's cool. I can just check that off the list of like, that's a really big project I've done.
That's cool.
Like a big client. So yeah.
What's typically your favorite things to work on? Is it more like digital stuff, painting stuff, murals? Yeah,
I think honestly it's for sure all a mix. I know that like my Instagram kind of shows like at least lately like a lot of like fine art stuff or like artist collaborations, type things, which like I do on the computer anyway.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think they all feed into one another. Like if I'm doing some like something that people might think like, oh, it's kind of boring. Like if you're like if I'm laying something out for CVs, like just some marketing material, it's like I look at it like a lot of times like stuff like that, like maybe I'll like be like laying out some type or something in an image, and I'm like, oh, that orientation, like that actually would really work if I looked at my painting like that too. Of like, oh, there's like a block of text in an image. It's like, what if I did like a wave here and like something here kind of thing. And so I think having that practice of like multiple kind of things, whether it's like I'm doing like more just design or brand oriented stuff versus like fine art stuff versus like mural stuff, is like always great, because it's like it's nice to just not stand like be in front of like a computer screen, like to be outside like painting, and so yeah, I think it's funny, like someone had asked me the other day of like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to do everything. Like I like kind of like doing it all, and I think I mean, one thing, like I'm not good with like web or like UI or like coding. That's like way in my head. But like anything like visual, where it's like, whether it's like I'm working on like a painting, or I'm working on like a pattern for something, or I'm even just like, oh, I'm taking this like copy and I'm trying to drop it into this like 8.5 by 11 flyer, but I need to like arrange it a certain way, and then I need to take it again and make it work for like an Instagram story or something. Like I think I enjoy doing all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, it's tough to figure out which one I really like, because I'm just like, I really like doing it all,
I feel that.
Definitely.
I haven't been I grew up painting with my dad, and doing like traditional artwork and all that stuff, and lately I've just found myself being interested in it again, and it's probably because we've been talking to so many artists and having people on who are kind of painters as well as designers, and so I've started a secret project for myself.
There you
And
go.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I don't want to necessarily talk about it yet until I have the framework down.
Nice.
But it'll be a lot of fun. But your background is making me itchy to get back into it, because I have a whole garage full of like paint supplies, easels. I have a drafting table and all that stuff, and it's just collecting dust at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's like it's one of those things where it's just like you got to force yourself to do it. It's almost like with even like for me, it's like if I have a passion project idea, it's like I need to tell myself like this is the deadline, So even for you to paint, it's like I just spent all this money on these supplies. Like I need to have a painting done by the end of the week. It's like putting that fire like under your butt, like it totally like, and having the space also is just like super nice to like lay it out. Like obviously here I have like so much crap everywhere, but like it keeps me going to have everything out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I swear I'm the most like impatient designer, which has always like been such an issue with like painting or doing anything physical, because like even if I'm just designing something, I get super anxious unless it's starting to like look good or like be at a certain point in the design that I feel like it's coming together. And whenever I was doing any sort of like painting or like physical artwork, it took like 3 or 4 times as long to get it towards that like end goal. And like a blank canvas literally like freaks me out. Like I cannot like handle it. So I've always started to like stray away from it, but it's not that I don't like enjoy it, because at the end of it, it feels like 10 times more rewarding, especially if you have something physical that you get to hang or like show people or whatever.
Sure.
So much of that digital work just stays on your computer. And
no
one ever sees it.
I know, right? My me and my girlfriend, we had like a little paint night a few months ago, and I painted it was the first painting, I swear, in probably like 4 or 5 years, and I was so frustrated at it. Like the whole time I was painting it, I couldn't get my wrist to do the right thing, and I was just getting mad. Like I went to there we go. I went to lay down some black line work at the end, and I just felt like I was messing it up. And I finally had to take a second to or basically humble myself and go like, hey, it's, you know, you're not going to jump back into it and be as good as you were years ago. It's like, you know, you got to practice and get better. But also it was like I had to take it less serious because I'm just I'm painting on a canvas about like 5x5. But yeah, no, it was super fun, and the end result was like really, really fun. I'm trying to get into some shit like you, DJ, with that big ass canvas in the background.
Totally, yeah. No, and the thing is, like, I totally get it. I think it's like, it's one of those things, like, I don't know if you guys experience this. I'm sure you do, where like, there's sometimes where you're working on something, you're like, oh, this is like clicking, like this is gonna be so sick. Like whether it's like computer or like for me, like, yeah, computer or painting. But like a lot of the time, like I'll start something and be like, oh wow, this sucks. This is gonna suck. And I have to like force myself to like keep refining it, you know? And it's like, it's almost like how like Draplin like always just is like dupe it, like keep going down, like keep refining it. And like when you look at your artboard, you're like, oh my gosh, it's like I started over here and now I'm all the way over here, but like this is perfect. And like for me, it's like with the painting, sometimes with painting, I'm just like, okay, just keep going, keep like tweaking it, step back if you need to like fix something, you know, and like, and yeah, like I have that all the time with like everything I do. I think it's like, I don't know, I think as designers, like we all go through it of like sometimes like you have to like force yourself to like go through the mud because like the good stuff is on the other side.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you can just get lucky and you're like, wow, that was really good. One shot, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the start of it for you for graphic design, or was it art first?
I think I was super into art growing up. Like I was always like painting and drawing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it wasn't until one of my buddies, I think as far as like design stuff, like I think it's funny. At the beginning of high school, I was a pretty good student. And by the time I got to the end, like I literally graduated like bottom 20%. Like my mom was just like so happy that I just graduated, you know? Like I think especially just being like, I don't know, like I think the stereotypes of like the Asian mom like is like totally true of like they want you to succeed for a good reason, but like my mom was just like, bum, like my kid is like such like he's not motivated, he's not doing anything. And it's funny, it wasn't until like I barely graduated, someone had actually got me, they like illegally downloaded like CS6 or something.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was, but
some bootleg Adobe.
Yeah. And I just started messing around on it and I started just like doing stuff for free, for fun. And then I was like, oh, I can like do this for a living. And it's funny, like totally like reignited like my drive. Like I started college like just really poorly at like my community college, and then I transferred to the school called Azusa Pacific out like, I don't know, kind of by Pasadena. And it's funny, from there, I think like learning like the discipline of like design and getting better, like it made me a better student, where like I got on like the dean's list. And it's funny, never been, last time I did good in school was like 4th grade, like prior to that. I just like, didn't care. And yeah, I just started learning. And when I was in college, I basically told myself like, I don't want to work, and there's nothing wrong with this, but like I don't want to work in the cafeteria, I don't want to like do like whatever like kind of like on campus job. I was like, I just don't want to do that. And so I basically like forced myself to say like, okay, well, your career, it starts now. Like I'm not going to wait until like school is over, kind of thing. And it's funny, I had teachers who were just like, you do more of your freelance, which is great, but like you need to do your schoolwork too. Like I had to like, you're nailing all these like, you know, projects, but like you need to also come to class with like what we're working on. But
yeah,
essentially what I had done is like when I was in college, I made like a really long Excel sheet, and I had every single brand and every single person I wanted to work for. And then from there, I just went on the internet, and I was like, and I think this is a blessing of like being like our age and like having the internet in our control. It's like, I just was like, oh, Brixton creative director, blah, 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 creative director. And then they would just pop up, LinkedIn, boom. Oh, that's the person's name. Right. And I put their name in the Excel sheet. And this is me, like, you know, like 20 years old, you know, in my, you know, little apartment with like all my roommates. And I filled that Excel sheet with like everybody. And then from there, I essentially guessed what their emails were, and I would like fill it in. I would like populate it. Like, so this is a tip for anybody listening. Like,
Yeah, seriously, this is a real pro hack.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, as long as you like find whatever like the domain is, like,
Yeah.
there's only so many ways like someone's email can be. If they're a little company, it might just be first name at whatever.
Right.
If they're a big company like Adidas or Nike, it might be first name, last name, first name dot last name, first initial, last name. And I would just like, I made my portfolio like on Squarespace, and I basically was just like, okay, I'm going to keep sending an email until nothing bounces back. And then nothing would bounce back. And I'd be like, okay, it
Boom,
went.
there it is.
Right, it went.
Yeah. And so I just did that. Like,
Damn.
I've done that for a long. I haven't done it in a while because I think I've been lucky to like kind of have work come in. But
Yeah.
in the beginning, I was just like taking a shot in the dark, and luckily I had like opportunities like in turning iron and resin and having things like printed that like I could kind of show them, and I had a portfolio with like random work, passion projects, some client stuff I didn't really have, but I just was like, I'll put everything on there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just like, boom, like I'm just gonna, instead of like kind of waiting for someone to find me, I'm like, I'm just gonna be as prepared as I can. I'm just gonna go kick down the door. And so it's funny. This happened, I guess, like a little more later in my career, but maybe like 2 or 3 years after college. But I had started freelancing, and I did that same thing, but I did it with Adidas. And I found one dude, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna shoot him an email, and it went through, it didn't bounce back. And literally like maybe like a day later, he like responded. He was like, hey, your stuff is really cool. Like, do you want to like have a meeting like with our team? And
Unreal.
Crazy.
It worked. And it's funny, like on the call, like I walked through all my work, and then at the end, or maybe it was at the beginning, it was like maybe like I don't know, like 6 or 7 people like on this call. The main dude, who like I'm buddies with now, and like I've met people like there, which is like super funny. But he was like, hey, so how did you find my email? Was it through so-and-so, or did someone? And I was like, I guess I typed in,
You called them?
whatever, Adidas creative director, your name came up. I kept guessing, and they all laughed, and I'm like, wow, I'm a creep. Like, they're good.
Yeah.
Dude, that drive, like that in itself,
Seriously,
is like truly like incredible.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
for
that's
anyone watching this, like, and hearing that story, like makes me feel like I didn't want it enough, like in college. Like that.
Yeah.
Like if you're not filling up a Excel spreadsheet with somebody's name and guessing their emails, like that's how bad you
Yeah.
should want it.
No, totally.
If
Yeah.
you're listening to this and you're going like, oh, I don't know how I could try harder, that's how you could try harder. Like, you want some
That's
business,
like the
there it is.
pinnacle. That's the pinnacle of like wanting
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
truly awesome. And to hear that,
like maybe, and I think since then, like I've done, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 projects like with them or something, and
That's
I become
cool.
buddies with them. Obviously, like I've never met them, so it's like via like Instagram. But it's like, yeah, it's funny. I just like wanted to figure it out, and I went out and got it. And yeah, I think obviously for anybody listening too, it's like you can do that, but if you have nothing to show and you're not driven, like if you can get the meeting, but if you can't sell yourself, then it's like, okay,
Dude,
you've gone to the door,
100%.
but like the bouncer's like, okay, you can leave, you know,
Yep.
kind of
totally. I mean,
Dude,
you're
100%. It's taking. What was that?
I was just saying, DJ's portfolio speaks for itself.
Oh,
and,
for sure.
I mean, just to see like the continual collabs that you've been coming out with too, with these like enormous companies, and they want DJ Javier stuff too. You know, it's not even like you've become your own artist, like we said earlier, and like they are asking for that artwork, which has just been super epic to see. And your progression is like, it's amazing, truly.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm really, I mean, I'm stoked and humbled, and yeah, I still trip out like when people, especially like brands and people I've looked up to, like reach out, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just freaking I have an iPad. I don't know, like drawing my underwear on my iPad. Like I'm not that professional, but yeah.
Do you primarily use your iPad?
Yeah, I think it's all really dependent. A lot of like my more graphic, I don't know, like if I'm doing like a graphic tee or something, it's probably going to be the iPad. For the most part, if I do any sort of like branding stuff, like it's probably just going to be it's probably everything honestly really starts for me on the iPad, whether it's
Yeah.
like in concepts or like whatever it is. And so, but then from there, it's like I always finish it up in Illustrator
Yeah.
for the most part. And so, yeah, I always start there, but then it will for sure end up on the computer. Yeah.
For sure.
That's where like I'll kind of dial it in and, do some typographic treatments, or sometimes if I'm working on something and I'm like, I want this to be like super clean, then like it's just straight Illustrator. But it's funny, like I've seen like your guys' work is so sick, and I'll see it and I'll be like, how do they do that? Like I
Well,
think
I
I've
was
done
just
my work
looking.
to a
I was
certain
just looking at your work 5 seconds ago, and I was thinking, how does he do that? So
Yeah, exactly. I have your like Instagram and stuff pulled up on my other screen, and I've just been looking through it. But like even when we had first met, like way back 10 years ago, I always felt like you're way above the curve on like the graphic design. Like I've just seen over the years your progression of like just, I would say, more of like a freelance designer turning into your own self, or you're finding your own style or talent.
yeah.
So this is basically like I have like a template thing. Can you guys see this?
Yep. Sure.
Yeah.
It's funny. How many times in the pandemic have you guys said like, "Can you see this?"
I know, right?
Sharing something. Oh, is my screen sharing paused? What the heck is this? Oh, resume share. Awesome.
So is this what you would like typically show a new or prospective client?
So this one's almost like a little more tailored to like I've done like random, almost like speaking engagement things, like mostly via Zoom recently. So this is like, I guess like a more like toned down, like for like, I don't know, I think if I had more of a, like if I was pitching to a client, I essentially would have this, but even more like beefed up, like with, I don't know, fancy words, like, I don't know, synergy. I don't know, just kidding. I never use that word. No, but this is just like my kind of like brief overview of like stuff I've done so far. And so yeah, so essentially like I kind of broke it up. It's like 4 sections, like a little intro.
Nice.
And then I don't know, I think for the most part, like my stuff is kind of chopped up between like graphic design or like almost art direction kind of stuff, fine art, and then mural. So almost like computer stuff, stuff that I make with my hands, and stuff that's really big essentially with my hands. And so little blurb, obviously graphic designer, fine artist, art director for the footwear brand CVs. And so, yeah, and then here's just like, I guess something like current client list of people I've worked with. So yeah, it's funny, even looking at this now, I'm like, whoa, I can't believe like I've done this
This is a
stuff.
heavy hitter list, DJ.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm just stoked. Like I said, I'm just so grateful that like, I don't know, these people, these brands are like, we'd love to work with you. And like I said, I think I'm always in that mentality of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but like, which is, I think it's a good mentality to have as a designer.
Yeah.
I always want to get better, and I want to put better people in the room so I can learn from them. And so that's why I see things, and as opposed to like, sometimes I get jealous of like, I wish I could do that. Like I see my friends post stuff and I'm like, that's so good. I want to get like to that caliber, And so, but yeah, all that to say, this is kind of like a quick run through people I've worked with. Yeah, and then like these are just like random snapshots of like things I've done. So most of the stuff lately I've been doing is like in the sense of like artist collaborations, which is really cool because it makes it easier for me, because like all of my like direction or mood boards is like just prior work. And like obviously sometimes if I do like branding projects or something, then I'll get into the weeds of like, oh, here are 3 concepts, and like none of my fine art stuff will be in there because it's like that's not the vibe, And so, but here's just like kind of random snapshots with different brands like Visla. I did like a big Huckberry thing that came out, Surfrider. I did some typographic treatment stuff for Undefeated for a collaboration they did. Just like random stuff. Kanto is like my little passion project brand with a good friend of mine. Some shoes I did with CBs as like an artist collaboration. Did some branding also for like a buddy of mine's restaurant. And so doing stuff that like, I don't know, like people don't really, I guess, get to see via Instagram. But the bottom left is like a record label thing here in town. But yeah, so just like kind of like a plethora of like graphic design projects, fine art stuff. yeah, so everything, it's funny. My fine art stuff and my design stuff do kind of go hand in hand a little bit, and so that's why like the art stuff kind of looks like.
Badass.
How
Um,
did the takeout trays start?
it's funny. So I did a collaboration with Visla a
Mhm.
while ago, and we did an art show, and I was like, oh, I should paint on trays, and like just because of like the whole like body surfing thing, like stealing trays, and you go body surf with them, like they're great for body surfing. And so that's like kind of how that sprung about, and I've like
Hmm.
continued to like kind of refine my work as a painter. And yeah, it's funny. This weekend, if this will air Friday, right?
Yeah.
So tomorrow I'm doing an art show in Santa Barbara, and I painted like 72 of these orange trays. Like they're literally behind me on like a cart,
Damn.
which is like the most wild thing. I would recommend it in the sense of like it forces you to come up with 72 ideas.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm doing that. That's like what that big cutout thing, as I showed you guys earlier, is for. But yeah, so that's kind of how that came about. And yeah, like I said, a lot of my fine art stuff is just, it's like my design stuff, but maybe more detailed and more kind of like textured or.
Yeah.
This is so cool, dude.
You've just been able to
Uh,
make like super iconic figures like throughout all of your works. Like
Yeah.
you have some pretty reoccurring imagery, like skulls or waves or hands, flowers,
yeah,
roses,
yeah,
warriors.
Yeah.
yeah. It's for
This
sure
is
one of
so
those
cool.
things where it's like, I think the designer in me like also looks through my fine art with this lens of like,
Hmm.
I don't know, I kind of like to put parameters on myself of like, I only really want to use like 3 or 4 colors, and I want
Hmm.
to use black and make something feel really intricate, but also really simple because it's just one color. And it's almost like when you think about good branding, it's like you look at it and you're like, how is that so iconic? But it's just one like it's one mark, like the
Yeah.
Nike swoosh.
Yeah.
Like there's something so iconic about it, and I think I try to view my art in that same way of like, how do I pare it down so much, but then make it really loud and like detailed at the same time? And so that's kind of like my thought process. And
This is
so yeah,
very
I think
cool.
it's having that graphic design training and now approaching art like later in life. I think is kind of like been like the mixture, but for
You're like
sure,
your wetsuit guys, like I don't know if that's
yeah,
the right way to
yeah,
describe them, but like they become super iconic for you, and like and your skulls, your warriors, of course, and the hound. The hound
yeah.
is so
The
sick.
how I draw a lot, yeah. Yeah, I think it just comes from doodling all the time,
Yeah, because I just
Yeah.
remember seeing them like 3 years ago in your 5 years ago in your sketchbooks, and now they've just evolved into this.
Totally. Yeah,
This
I
is
think like
so
drawing the
this is
same
so
thing.
incredible, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. And so this whole section is just larger scale mural work that I've done. So the top left is a corner of the Amazon roof, and here's some other stuff like I did in Cardiff for Patagonia. I went to Brooklyn on the bottom right and did like this big mural for like this like multi-use facility. The wave is out, or it's actually right over here, like near my office at the CV store.
Cool.
Stuff for like Rourke on their store on La Brea. Just some little stuff, different stuff for like friends and their offices, essentially, like the other three. And yeah, just like random tidbits of, I don't know, big mural. I don't know. Like I said, I like doing different things. I like
Yeah.
doing everything. And yeah, it's funny. Like I said, when people ask me like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, how do I explain what I do?
A lot
You
of
know?
everything.
Yeah,
Well, dude,
That's
I
like
can say that you have definitely inspired me to break out my paint, because yeah, that was my entire childhood, was just painting and doing all that stuff. And yeah, seeing your work is kind of lit a little fire under my butt.
yeah. You
I want to
inspired
go
me.
paint like right now.
You
totally.
inspired me to bring out my Excel spreadsheet, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
That's for sure. Uh,
Now it's funny because like I'm assuming, because doing graphic design, we kind of build a layer system completely opposite of painting on a canvas or something like that. Black is like, what is your process like when going into a painting? Like, do you go pencil and then all like the colors and then black on top and then you're golden, or
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
think it's funny. Like I said, everything is just like totally blended into itself. That like
Hmm.
I almost see my paintings like I'm in Illustrator, and like I'm like, this is the red, or even in Photoshop, anything that has any of the, you know, I mean, InDesign has layers too. So like any of the Adobe suite that has layers, and I just see it as like, this is red layer, this is blue layer, this is like the top. And like, I think for me, it's like, I do a lot of like apparel stuff. So like everything is always like, how is this going to work when it gets screen printed, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I normally, now I think I've gotten to the rhythm of like kind of trusting my gut more, and I'll just like rough out the shape and like roughly throw color down and be like, yeah, that kind of looks like what I'm painting.
Yeah.
And I'll just kind of like wing it from there. Like even like the Amazon mural, like there was a lot of times where I'd look at it and go, oh my gosh, there was supposed to be something right there, but I just characters too far apart. And so I'm like, palm tree, boom. And I'll just kind of like figure it out in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I see everything as it's almost like, yeah, my design background has totally like translated into my art. And it's funny, I think for a while, like people, like someone I know said like, oh, your work is like really graphic. And they didn't mean it in like, it wasn't like a bad or good thing. They were just saying like it's graphic. And I was like, oh, I don't want it to be like that. But then I'm like, well, I'm a graphic designer and I love doing it like this. And a lot of my heroes, like someone like Stephen Harrington is like, he's a graphic designer too, and his work is graphic. And so like, whatever, like this is me. Like this is, I'm going to run with it. It's my vibe, you know? And so.
Yeah, you got to trust your intuition on art, because like I've spent so much time just wasting going like, why isn't this working out? Why isn't it looking like this? When it's like, you just said it, it's like, oh, it just kind of forms. You know, it forms into what you're looking, and you just gotta polish it off. And when something's off, you just throw a little tree in there like Bob Ross.
Yeah, no, totally. That's like been my. It's funny. I recently, like a little while ago, I spoke to like a bunch of like 8th graders via Zoom, like in an art class.
Sick.
And I basically told them, I was like, listen, like take all the stuff that you might think like this is like I'm not good at, and just find a way to own it. Like for me, it's like I could never be a sign painter because like my lines are so crooked. Like if you look closely, you're like, whoa, this guy like literally like is like painting like this. But like I've learned to be like, okay, if my line's gonna be rough, then the whole thing's gonna be rough, and that's my style.
Yeah.
So I've kind of like tried to like adopt that for myself, and just encourage people that like find what it is and don't let it be your crutch. Like make money off of it somehow.
Yeah.
Like you know, if you're like, I don't really like drawing, but I love working with shapes and color, and then like figure out a way to like make that be your style. Like your style, like you are known for that, you know, and continue to hone in on it, and you know, build it and build your craft. But like, yeah, I think that's why like I look at your guys' work, and it's like I'm like, oh, I'm like so out of touch with like doing things that are like more clean and like graphic, and I look at that and I'm like, that's so good, because you guys like crush it and you own it. Like that is like totally like, that is your style, and you've like really refined it. And like it's awesome because like, yeah, it's like it's you, and as opposed to like learning a bunch of different things and being like okay at a few different things. Like I always tell my like creative friends, especially if they're just starting out, like you don't have to learn every single thing.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a web guy, there's going to be a photo guy, there's going to be a motion guy. Like it's just like figure out what you're good at and like really run with it, and you will be like known for that, and people will want what you have, as opposed to being like, he's kind of okay at like a few things, but he's not really good, you know? So it's like you guys, like your work is so buttoned up and clean that it's like people are going to be like, I want that. Like that is exactly what I want, you know? Yeah.
I'm totally with you, and it seems like you've really been able to own that, especially within your own work, and it's been epic keeping in touch with you over the years, and seeing the progression of your work and where you're at now. It's just like, it's awesome, and all the collaborations you've been doing lately, and just seeing you crush it, it's been epic, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, I think that, especially with the inspirational ending that you gave there, that's a pretty good spot to leave it. But for everyone watching, where can they find you, and what platforms, I guess?
So my Instagram is actually, what is my Instagram? I always forget where the underscore is. If it's the
underscore in the beginning.
Okay, it's @_ DJ Javier. And then my website is bionsurf.club. And then, yeah, I have like Conto.vision on Instagram. That's like just, like I said, my passion project. Yeah, so that's like, I guess, like where to find me. And yeah, if you guys are in Santa Barbara, if like, I don't know, any of the listeners are, like, I'm totally like, my door's always open. I love meeting like other creatives and like kind of like building that community and getting connected. So yeah, I'm always down. And I have surfboards. We can all go surfing.
Sick.
We'll get Cam on a surfboard sometime soon.
Dude, surprisingly, I'm not saying I'm good at surfing, but I was out in the ocean for like 6 hours and I caught the wave at the very, very end and went down. I was stoked.
Yeah, dude, that's all you need. Like that feeling of like just getting, like, even I literally went surfing like probably like 3 hours ago or something.
Nice.
And yeah, I caught one wave and I was like, I'm done. I'm good. This is great. I don't need any more. This is perfect.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Well, let's all go surfing together. I'll make the drive up.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we're actually like all at different parts of California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're in.
I'm in Costa Mesa. He's in Bakersfield.
I'm not at the beach.
Yeah.
But epic. So yeah, if you haven't followed DJ already, go ahead and give him a check out and follow his work. And thanks for being a pal, DJ.
Thanks for being a pal, DJ.
Gang, guys. I appreciate it.